Hey, what's up guys, Moogalord here, and today we're going to talk about Shift Up. Yes, I know you guys are probably sick of me talking about this company, but I believe in 2024 they are a perfect example of where we're currently at when it comes to culture and gaming in regards of fan service and the depiction of female characters. So why is it that South Korean studios and developers continue to just celebrate feminine beauty while Western studios are just doubling down on masculizing female characters? And why is it that South Korean developers prioritize fan service and player satisfaction when designing female characters, while Western studios seem to focus on stripping away femininity to align with ideological narratives and viewpoints? But before we even get into this video, make sure to hit the subscribe button and notification bell for more gaming content here on this channel. So we're going to dive right into it. It just appears that Korean studios is just delivering what fans want in regards of fan service. And I have to admit that this year has been an interesting year when it just comes to gaming in general. A lot of releases have released that were quite interesting, and in fact my backlog have pretty much increased. But most importantly, what we see here is an actual pivotal moment when it comes to gaming culture itself, when it comes to narratives. Which narrative is going to stick? Which narrative is going to win out this culture war between giving what the fans want and fan service and just what gaming used to be in the early 90s to 2000s into what we have right here, where gaming in the West is more about narratives and ideology? Which one is going to win? And a perfect example just the rise. And what I'm talking about? Well, apparently when it comes to Shift Up, there's a collaboration when it comes to Stellar Blade and Nier Automata. But by the time you see this video, the DLC will probably be out. But this pretty much brought up a situation where we see both the ideologies and design philosophies come into place. And also, don't forget the snapshot mode that's going to be added with this patch as well. So I can't wait and looking forward to see what the community come up with. But this highlights these two ideologies. But even before we even get into it, it appeared that Ubisoft itself had pretty much been exposed from their old DLC that was released back in 2022 when it came to the collaboration with Nier Automata and Rainbow Six itself. So now we're starting to see the depiction of how Eastern Studios was able to come together, collaborate with a Japanese studio, and interpret it in such a way that it not only reflects Korean design and art style, but also respect the Japanese IP itself, while we have on the other end, we have the Western ideology, and we have Ubisoft and how they did their collaboration with Nier Automata itself, and how it pretty much doesn't respect the source material at all. But before we even just get into the nitty-gritty of comparing the two, I wanted to just let you know about when it comes to the design philosophy, what we see here in Shift Up itself. It all boils down to the CEO and the company's, I guess you would say, nature. And we talked about this before in a previous video, to where we seen the CEO of Shift Up talk about why he designed the characters that he designed, and how their ideologies within the company and his employees all align together. They have his DNA, so you're able to see that. And what I like about this the most is that we have Yoko Taro, who is the creator and the father of the Nier series, and he works at Square Enix, and he pretty much has that same ideology himself. We've seen an article where he said when people asked him why do 2B look the way he looked, and he said, hey, I just like girls. And that is the perfect example of it. So these two come together with the same ideology, and you have something as beautiful as this crossover, which is a match made in heaven. And you can see the raving responses that fans have, and they're looking forward to actually be able to get their hands on the DLC and just do a ton of screenshots. And I just can't wait to see what they come up with. But what's interesting about the Ubisoft version of 2B is that there may be some trolling on Yoko Taro's part on his end when he was asked about 2B appearance in the game itself when it comes to Rainbow Six. So in the article itself, which I'll pull up here, which I just found was quite interesting. So it was from Niche Gamer, and it says, half right, it really is Nier Automata's skin, but not the character that we know. The Rainbow Six Siege skin is called Unit Designation Lana, and the 2B names seem to be nowhere in sight despite the similarities in design, which prompt fans to ask the series creator on Twitter. I quote, I had a costume collaboration with Rainbow Six. I think you can play G2 instead of 2B. series creator Yoko Taro said on Twitter. He also added that the Yora Gunner type exists only in the prototype model, and the prototype model is named in the same order as A2. In the order of type, name, and number, so if number 2 has a Gunner type, the model would be named G2. It's a bit tough to make sense of what Yoko-san is teased, but what can be understood is that Lana is cosplaying a G2 model in Rainbow Six Siege. Something is to note is that Maverick is called Replicant Maverick instead, with no signs of Nair name, meaning that both of these skins are characters in the Nair universe that weren't seen before, despite looking similar to already established protagonists. Yoko is also known of having a sense of humor, so it can also be theorized that this is G2 instead of 2B, because she looks a bit off, namely the face, the broader shoulders, and the modified outfit. Yoko Taro also jokingly said that the picture of 2B cosplayer eating KFC was canon, so anything goes at this point. So yes, you got to understand the nature of Yoko Taro. So I believe this is quite interesting, the lore behind this costume itself, but you can apparently see where two opposing ideologies are pretty much clashing with one another, because you see the depiction of 2B from Shift Up, and then you see the depiction of whatever we're supposed to call this version of 2B, if it's not 2B, but it still has the similarities. You see the confusion of this, but you can see the ideology when it comes to this. And what I find quite interesting is that we constantly keep seeing this trend. And the question I want to ask you guys is, when it comes to the whole Western ideology, when it comes to the Ubisoft version of this Nier Automata crossover, is it just laziness and incompetence, or is this intentional? You know, we're seeing that when it comes to this character, we can see a male body, and we see that pretty much they just put a female head over it. So is it the fact is that they just want to just cut time and resources by just keeping all the characters the same? Or is this an actual ideological narrative that's going on? But to me, I think it's an ideological narrative rather than incompetence, because we're starting to see this trend everywhere. And also, the person that's cosplaying this costume when it comes to this Nier Automata crossover in Rainbow Six goes by the name Lana. And when you look at Lana herself, she has like a somewhat of a feminine face and hairstyle, but when you look at the body, there's no curvature. And it's crazy how you see people would take Photoshop to make her butt bigger, and how people would tease the character, but you can tell by this female character design if you was to take Lana herself, because the concept of her looks pretty interesting, and it would be awesome if you take an Eastern developer, somebody from Japan, Korea, or China, and take Lana. They would actually do this character design much more justice, but this is what we have here. And then now you strip away Lana and put the 2B or the Nier Automata crossover costume over top of it. It exposes the design and the philosophies of how they design female characters, with the broad shoulder, the manly look, and even down to the pose. It has just destroyed the entire image and just disrespect the legacy in which Nier Automata has on gaming culture in general. And you can just see the feedback and backlash, and just them just outright just clowning these developers when it comes to that. But let's just continue on, because this happens to be a trend, and it's happened to a lot of our iconic female characters in costumes. And let us also remember, like, we also seen this when it came to Call of Duty and the Lara Croft DLC. And there has been plenty of backlash when it came to that. And more importantly, Lara Croft fans and Tomb Raider fans in general love the original Lara Croft. And people have been starving for Lara Croft. And most people were upset and don't really like the depiction of the more recent Lara Croft. And they just keep butchering the character. And they know that fans enjoyed the original Lara Croft, which is another reason why that you have the Tomb Raider Remastered trilogy and another collection is coming out, because people love the older version of her. And here it is, now we have DLC of this character, and they were going for the original look, and as you see, they bastardized the character. Instead of giving Lara Croft that sexy femme fatale look, you can still see in the overall structure of this character that it still adopt some masculine features, which upsets a lot of fans. And I knew when I seen this character, Melanie Mack was going to be all over it. She was going to rip this to shreds, as she should. But it also shows the different philosophies. And we're going to continue on with another example, which is Apex Legend did a crossover with Final Fantasy VII, especially when Rebirth was on its way. So when you look at the costumes, mainly our girl Aerith Gainsborough, we had a costumes for a specific character in Apex Legend, and it just looked downright terrible. Nothing feminine about the aesthetic of this character at all. And that also boils down to EA philosophy when it comes to designing female characters. All their female characters within the game doesn't have a shred of femininity at all. So of course, when you put the costume on this character, it's not going to highlight the best aspects of Aerith Gainsborough herself in the Final Fantasy series. But let's just get off Aerith. But when you look at the rest of the Final Fantasy costumes, it just looked terrible in general. Just the game just looked nasty aesthetically in general when it comes to the character design. But this seems to be a trend that's going on within the gaming industry itself, and I don't know if it was ever going to stop. But we can take a look at South Korean developers and just Eastern developers in general when it comes to fan service. And there's a lot of fan service, and they take a lot of pride in their fan service, and you can see a lot of this evidence found in Black Desert Online, Lost Ark, Stellar Blade, and the famous and most respected, highly regarded mobile game, Nikkei Goddess of Victory, which we talked about a lot here on this channel, and this way had gained shift up to prominence in the gaming space, and then they were able to be successful with Stellar Blade itself. And the thing is, South Korean studios, they just simply celebrate female beauty without compromise, creating designs that resonate with the fans. And this is what they want, while Western studios, on the other hand, is just willing to risk and alienate by focusing more on ideological narratives than delivering what the players want. So there is definitely a cultural divide here, and you can see it with Shift Up and Ubisoft, which represents where we at and how and where we stand when it comes to culture itself in gaming. So I definitely want to hear your thoughts on this. What do you think about Shift Up and how they just tend to just deliver, or just Korean studios in general, which we want to talk about later on with Nexon, with First Descendant. They decided to add in jiggle physics with the next update for Season 2 of the game. So we're definitely going to get into that, but it just seemed like Korean studios right at this point just keep winning. They just keep delivering, and it's good to see that. So what do you think about all of this? Do you think it's going to get better moving forward, especially moving into 2025? Or do you think that the other narrative, which is the Western narrative, is going to somehow come out on top and just obliterate the Eastern narrative, which is feminine beauty? So if you like the video, hit the like button, subscribe button for more gaming content here on this channel. This is Mugen Lord, sign off. I'll see you game fiends later. Peace out.